Hi everyone, welcome back. Today I've got an interesting one. So today I'm going to be doing a review of the Literary Witches Oracle. It's a 70 card oracle deck and guidebook written by Taisha Kitais. Oh gosh, how do you say this? Kitaiska? Kitaski? And illustrated by Katie Horan. I'm just going to pop that there because I will have butchered their names so much. I am so sorry. But yeah, a picture of Emily Bronte on the front, which we'll come to later. I say this is an interesting one mainly because I wanted this for so long. It kept coming up on like my recommendeds. I saw it everywhere and I saw it all over Instagram, and I was like, well, it's just me, isn't it? It's just absolutely everything that I stand for. Is literature, is witchcraft, and that is what my channel's about, what my life's about. So I was like, this is absolutely perfect. Now, normally I don't do oracle decks. I'm much more of a tarot person because I like having that reasonably clear system to go off. I feel like oracle decks can be a bit wishy-washy and a bit, I don't know, it doesn't have that history and formality to it that the tarot does, even though it's a reasonably short history. But anyway, I saw this and I wanted an oracle deck and I thought, oh, need it. So months and months and months later, and months ago now, I bought it. And I used it, I think, the day that I got it. And unfortunately, it has been sat on my shelf pretty much ever since, which I'm really, really, really sad about. And it took me a little while because I remembered that I got it. And normally I'm quite good at making sure, doing my research and waiting and making sure I really, really want a deck before I buy it. And then I almost always end up really bonding with it and using it a lot. So it's quite strange that I ended up being a bit about this one. And I think I've figured out the reasons why. So I'm going to start off with having some of my coffee. It's decaf because we've run out of caffeine, but not run out of caffeine, run out of caffeinated coffee. So yeah, I'm still going to be sleepy after I've had it, but it doesn't matter. It's very tasty, and I'm not actually supposed to have caffeine because I've got a dodgy heart, so it's probably a good thing. Anyway, it's so nice to be like sitting like this and talking. I've really missed it actually. I've not done it for ages and I'm just like, oh. So yeah, the Literary Witches Oracle. It's a nice sturdy box, beautiful. I'll try and open this without, yeah, there we go. That's a little book that you get in it, which is actually quite a nice big book. And I'll take that out. And cards are in there like this, and that's gorgeous. Look at that artwork on the back. It's very nice. Excuse my bit of nails. I want to get them done again. I get kind of like habits and tics. I get them quite a lot, so biting my nails is one that's really stuck, unfortunately, into adulthood. But I'm gonna go get my nails done soon. Ugh, who cares? So yeah, this is the back of them, and I'll just pull them out, obviously with the little flapperdoodle. And here's the deck. So the first thing, just catch that was a bit, anyway, the first thing that I noticed is that the cardstock is very, very thin, and I think that's the first thing that I thought of when I opened this, and it was kind of an immediate disappointment. And that disappointment was abated a bit when I kind of started, looking through them. But I think with tarot cards, people tend to really overlook the importance of great quality cardstock, because it doesn't matter how beautiful the images are. If it's kind of flimsy and you don't feel like you always want to go back to it and you want to spend time with it and just like flick through it without doing readings, I like to just a lot of the time sit and shuffle my cards just to kind of bond with them and get to know them and whatever. So if you don't want to do that because they feel a bit, that's a massive problem in my opinion. And this feels weird because this is the first review that I've ever done where there's really anything negative to say. But I think it is important to get honest feedback, and I've got a lot of positives about this deck as well. So if you were wanting to get it, I am absolutely not going to say don't get it, because there's so much positive, so many positives, in this deck, yeah, that it might be worth it for someone. You know, which way around am I going to do this? Right, no, I shall read you a bit of the guidebook first. So it's pretty substantial-ish for a little book, better than you getting a hell of a lot of tarot decks, so that's something. So we have a little bit of an introduction where they say, as with tarot cards, oracle cards serve as mediums for personal reflection. The symbolism of the cards can help you interpret your experiences and focus your energy. However, while tarot decks contain 78 cards, blah blah, oracle decks have no set number of cards or a structure to be studied. This 70-card oracle deck is based on Literary Witches, a celebration of magical women writers, a book by the two ladies that created this, that reimagines visionary women writers as witches, formidable figures of creativity and empowerment. And I love that. I'm all about that. I think that's so cool, and I want to get the book. And I think the reason that I didn't really get on with this deck is because I haven't read the book. And again, it makes sense, but I do think it's a problem, because it's a standalone product. They don't say you need to get the book. If you had to get the book to understand it, now maybe you don't, I'm just speculating, but if you would understand it if you read the book, and you get less out of it if you haven't read the book, they should sell them together. You should be able to buy the book on its own or the book with the deck, but you shouldn't be able to buy the deck on its own if you can't understand it as well without, yeah, you understand what I'm saying. So, just as the book honours the conjuring powers of women authors throughout time, the Literary Witches Oracle is an invitation to access and nourish your own inner witch, that wise being who knows exactly what is going on and what to do. I like it. It's a little bit generic, but I like it. Using the 30 author portraits from the book, The Witches, as well as 40 new paintings inspired by the book's imagery, The Witches' Materials, these cards offer the presences of magical literary artists and their witchy familiars as portals to guidance and meditation. Now, I don't understand how presences of magical literary artists, I get that, and their witchy familiars. What are the witchy familiars though? Because a lot of these things aren't animals, they are like, let's see what the first one I come across is. Oh, yeah, I've just remembered that I split them up. Yeah, so like mushrooms and wildflowers. So, I don't know, that confuses me a little bit, and you shouldn't set off into something being confused, and that's why it was that section that I've just read, and that's the reason why I think that I would understand this a lot more having read the book. And I think what I might do is get the book at some point and then come back to it and do an update on this. So if you're watching in the future, I might have done that already, so look for it if you are. So then we've got a section called Reading the Cards. The author cards in this deck, the Witches, are figures wandering and brooding over an enchanted landscape. The Witches' materials are creatures and objects haunting the landscape, companions, talismans or ingredients for spells. All of these beings are alive for you to observe and make sense of with your own powers. I quite like that. It is a little bit confusing because I don't think you really do. I just can't quite imagine it. Like, for example, one of them is milk, and it doesn't make sense that would be lying around in the landscape for you to use for your witchy crafts. Sorry, I've just got to move my legs. Oh! Chronic pain, I've got bloody pins and needles, it's terrible. So yeah, I can't quite imagine that as fluidly as maybe I would like to, and again, I think reading the book would really help with that. The words on the cards and in this booklet provide suggestions for interpretation, some purposefully contradictory, some mystic and ambiguous. In the spirit of the book and the literature it celebrates, this deck plays with language and imagery and invites you to do the same. And that kind of leads me to one of my other problems, and that's the descriptions of, what do they call them, the Witches' Materials. They are short And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think that completely depends on your style of reading. I think some people like to have just a couple of keywords. God, these pins and needles. Some people like to just have a couple of keywords and then be able to go off intuition. Some people like a lot more kind of guidance and to really get to know how the deck was intended to be read and whatever. So that's entirely up to you as a user, whether you would like that or not. And then this ends with, only your intuition can tell you what the cards truly mean. So it's obviously geared towards geared towards the person who is fine to rely heavily on intuition, which I think is a very good practice. And I think I would like to use these decks more to kind of tap into intuition and explore the themes of the animals and the objects and what they actually mean to me. And I might end up using it more if I kind of take some time to do that, but it's interesting that I haven't. Where to begin? Initiate yourself into the Literary Witch's Oracle with the 2 simple layouts that follow. Right. Initiate yourself into the Literary Witch's Oracle. Does that make sense? Initiate yourself into. We've got a single card layout and a daily reading. For a daily reading, we've got a couple of examples of that. We've got a past, present, future, very, they're just 2 spreads that they give you, and that's it. So that's pretty sparse, obviously, but whatever, that I don't think that really matters. I never do the spreads that come in these kinds of books. It says actually somewhere in the introduction that there's loads more spreads available for you in the wider world, or you can make up your own. So I don't see a problem with that at all. So here, this is very nice. And for milk, they've put nourishment, parents, nostalgia. And that's the kind of 3 keywords. And then it says underneath, does that bit of ancient past still require a little healing, a little nourishment? Attend to it, drink the milk that fortifies you, and you'll see that you can grow right where you are. Now, that's what they've put for, so this is the past, present, future spread, and future was milk. And that's a lovely little description, and I wish that they'd done that exact thing in underneath, because that's all they've got in the actual section where they, explain what the cards mean. They've just got 3 words for each one, which again does encourage you to rely on your intuition a bit more. But I think I would like to just get a little bit more of a nudge as to where they were kind of going with it. And I just think it's really nicely written as well. So I would just like a little bit more. But like I say, that's entirely a personal preference thing. What I will say is that they have lovely little sections for all of our authors. So they have, just a short introduction to who they are. So I'll read out Emily Bronte's because I am a massive Bronte nerd. And her keyword is fantasy. And the 3 keywords beneath that, so that's the keyword that's on her card, is fantasy. Yeah, she's here. I was lucky. So she's fantasy. Emily Bronte, 1818 to 1848, spent her uneventful life at the family home on the moors. She created fantasy worlds with her brilliant sisters, Charlotte and Anne, brushed the carpet and took walks in the hills. After her death of tuberculosis at the age of 30, she achieved posthumous fame for Wuthering Heights, a vicious novel of romance between 2 isolated, stormy characters, Catherine and Heathcliff. And yeah, that's reasonably true. She actually created most of her fantasy worlds with Branwell. I mean, brush the carpet's a random one. They wouldn't have brushed the carpet. They had a couple of rugs. They would have taken them outside and kind of beat them. And being ridiculously picking out, I realise that. But another thing that I will be picky with about Emily Bronte specifically, and I've noticed with others it's not a problem, and it's not a problem with this either really, but it just irks me because I see this all over the place, and it's that picture. It's not Emily Bronte. It's a modern reinterpretation, and I suppose it's kind of, suppose it's kind of become synonymous with Emily, but actually the original of someone posing in this pose like this is Charlotte. It was an image of Charlotte, and I've seen it all over the place, kind of redone, redrawn and whatever, as if it's Emily. And we always used to laugh about it at the parsonage, because I used to work there. I can say that now that I don't work there anymore. I used to work at the Bronte Parsonage Museum, so this is why I'm getting heated. But but we always used to laugh whenever we saw pictures like that looked like this and they were labelled Emily, because it's not. And we have an image that we're pretty sure is Emily. It's the side profile one, very famous. There's a little bit of contention and people say that could be Anne, but at least it's pretty much, you know, well known as Emily. Whereas this is definitely not. It's definitely Charlotte. We've only got 2 images of Emily. One is the side profile and one is from the pillar portrait. We've got a few others from when they were kids and whatever. We've got some more, but this isn't one of them, and that's all I'm going to say about that. So it just irks me a little bit. Clearly irks me quite a lot, but I'm being too fussy. I know I am. And I don't want this video to get me into trouble, because the artwork is actually gorgeous in this deck. It is really beautiful. That's the only thing I've found, but I'm only really an expert in Emily, so I wouldn't really know. But like Virginia Woolf, you know, I'm pretty sure that the picture they've used is the very famous, you know, as a reference, is the very famous one of Virginia Woolf. So yeah, let's go through some pictures, because I've been rambling on for about 20 minutes now and I've not even shown you a single image apart from Emily. So each one has a little keyword at the bottom, and I just think the artwork is absolutely beautiful. Really, really gorgeous. And now that's an example of one of the witch's tools, was it? I keep forgetting what they're called, the witch's tools, I think it is. And another massive positive, of course, is that this is very inclusive. It contains authors from all over the world, different time periods and so on. So I really, really enjoy that, and it's definitely something that I can use to expand my knowledge of all sorts of amazing authors. Absolutely stunning. I love that. I think that is absolutely beautiful. I mean, I would hang that on my wall. I just think it's incredible. I'll show you it again. Oh, stunning. Yeah, do you see what I mean about Virginia Woolf there? It's obviously the inspiration from that is that very famous picture of her. And I just wish they'd done the same with Emily, is all. And I think it's the fact that they've done that with Emily and they've put it on the front of the box that I'm a bit like, why? But that's fine. And if the people that made this happen to be watching, and they happen to still be watching, I do really like this deck. There's just 1 or 2 things that I think could be improved upon. And I think that happens a lot when decks are made maybe from, no, I wouldn't say as an afterthought, but you know, when it comes from something else and they're like, oh, we'll make a tarot or an oracle deck regarding that thing, it can often just feel like it's not, because it's not been the main focus, it's not got that same energy. And yeah, I don't know. Like, I find praying mantis, I don't know, I just don't know. And I think, I mean, it's my fault for not doing enough research, but I think that I expected it to be all literary witches rather than these cards, which just don't mean anything to me. Like volcano, praying mantis, like I just don't care. And maybe I should. That's entirely me. That's my thing. My, you know, problem. But I just don't get inspired by these ones. But I absolutely love the literary witches. I think they are stunning. So I would have really loved just the whole deck with these ladies in, even if it was much smaller. So what I've actually done is separated them and just used them as 2 separate decks. That's ace, that. And in terms of ability to shuffle, I have very small hands, and this is about half of them, maybe less. And they're okay, they're fine. But I think if I were the creators of this, I would be tempted, very tempted in fact, to just make the cards smaller, because look how much empty space there is there. And the drawings are reasonably simple, so they could probably be made smaller, and just to use better cardstock, because I think people would appreciate that so much more than a really big but flimsy as hell. You know, it's just, yeah. Wrecked that now. Sorry, I really shouldn't have done that. I feel really guilty now. But that's my opinion. Like Lion, like I just don't. It's hard to imagine. That's all. But I think maybe if I get the book, that's very cool. It'll help me. Little rabbit. But yeah, I think that's a reasonable list of pros and cons. And I do quite like. I have a love-hate thing with these. I don't know. They don't mean much to me, but I think I'd like them more if they were their own deck. So I might just, again, split them and just use them separately, because it's a bit. It feels, from what I've seen of like Lenormand type decks, it feels a bit more like that. I've never used a Lenormand deck in my life, but I know people who have, and from what I've seen, it looks a little bit more like that. So yeah, I think that would be very, very cool if they just maybe included the book with the deck so that you really know what's going on. I think if they made the cards smaller and better cardstock, then that would also be brilliant. And maybe just, if you included the book, you could have a section on how to use the Oracle deck there and go into loads of detail, or kind of like weave it throughout. I don't know. Or just maybe put a little bit more detail into this book too. So that is all I have to say about this. I would still, you know, if you really love this artwork, I would still recommend getting it. I think it'd be really cool to put some of these on your altar if you're a writer, and that's something else that I would like to do. Definitely, but I'm moving out soon, so I'm not bothering at the minute. So yeah, I would still recommend this deck. If you've watched this video and the things that I've said that irk me slightly, if they don't bother you at all, then I would 100% recommend you get this deck, because I think you would probably get a lot out of it. It's just possibly not for me. But having said that, I haven't spent that much time with it, and like I said, there's a reason for that. However, I think if I made myself spend a bit more time with it and really got to know the authors and so on, then I think I would get on with it a lot more. So maybe it's my fault, I don't know, but this is kind of a first impressions video, so I mean, I might refilm or film another one when I've, you know, been using them for a little bit longer. So I'm just going to shuffle, and I think what I'll do, because I'm recording this on a Monday, and I think I'm going to try and get it up today, but it might be Tuesday, but it doesn't really matter. So I'm just going to pull some cards for the week. And I think what I'm going to do is just pull 3 cards for the week in general. I'm not going to do like a few for Monday, a few for Tuesday, or whatever. Whatever people do, they do the start, the middle and the end, don't they? Well, actually, start, middle, end would be good, because I want to do 3 cards. Oh god, my hand's aching. This is the problems with having crap joints when you try to be a tarot reader. Right, yeah, so I'll do start, beginning and end. I just said start, beginning and end, and I obviously meant start, middle, beginning, middle and end. Yeah. So we have Gertrude Stein perspective for the first one, and then for the start of the week, and then for the middle of the week we have cat, and for the end of the week we have peacock. So obviously, because I've not really done much with these cards before, I'm going to look in the book and I'll read it and then see if anything comes through intuitively and what I can kind of make from that. So Gertrude Stein. So for Gertrude Stein it says, making sense frames new ways of seeing. Gertrude Stein 1874 to 1946, hosted a popular Paris salon, home to a staggering collection of modern art and famous visitors. Picasso, Hemingway, F. Scott Fitzgerald, and so on. Damn. Influenced by the radical painters she supported, Stein set out to create cubism in writing. She stripped her poems of narrative and logic, playing instead with spatial relationships and process. She shared her life with her romantic partner and secretary, Alice B. Toklas. That is very cool. So yeah, that definitely involves being quite radical and making a shift in the way that you do things, changing it up, not necessarily having to keep on with the status quo and keeping on doing the same thing day after day or doing it in the same way. Maybe at the start of the week we're going to decide to maybe do something in a completely new way. Maybe there's something we've wanted to try. If we put content out, for example, if there's some different kind of video that you fancy making, maybe you'll start to do that at the beginning of the week. I think if you're a writer, you might decide to try a completely new, different style of writing. You might take a different journey to work if there's a way that's possibly a bit longer but a bit nicer. I think there's opportunity at the start of the week to do something completely different and new, and that's what basically it says. So the middle of the week we have cat, and that is the untamed, self-ownership and watching. So that's really interesting actually because I do love cats. I never used to, but I do now. Anyway, that is very interesting, going from kind of doing things your own way. I think the cat is often a symbol of the strength that you need when you do kind of go off in your own direction. Cats are very, I'm doing this, I'm doing what I want, and F you type thing. So I think the middle of the week we might be really emboldened, I think, and we might ask for something that we feel that we deserve. We might think, I'm going to go out and I'm going to be true to myself, be my truest self, and not care what people think. It's very much that energy, and it's kind of honouring the core of who you are, to me. And yeah, that's that. And then at the end of the week we have peacock, which the keywords are splendour, the divine, and craving. So this could be to do with pampering yourself, self-care. If you've had a really difficult week, say with mental health, at the end of the week you might start to think, actually I deserve some being treated, and you might get a shower for the first time this week. Or it could be that you get really, really dressed up, and at the end of the week you think, right, I'm going to have a blowout this Friday, I'm going to go out, and within COVID kind of parameters. But yeah, I think it could also be maybe doing some glamour magic, and using glamour to commune with the divine. I also get fairy energy and the fairy glamour kind of energy with this. So I think it's quite a spiritual end to the week actually, and it's a very, very strongly self-honouring week, which I think is incredible. You're honouring yourself spiritually, physically, and intellectually as well, and I think that's absolutely brilliant. And I enjoy doing that reading, but I do find it, because I'm used to tarot and having a little bit more to go on, and I've not used these archetypes ever before in anything, the reading wasn't as rich as it would be if it were tarot, basically. But that doesn't matter. That was a nice little reading. So if you do want these cards, I would still definitely recommend them. You know, I think they are nice. Nice cards to have if you're a literary witch, but I think you ought to be aware of the things that I wasn't aware of before I bought them. So that is all I'm going to say about this deck, and let me know in the comments if you have this deck, if you love it, if you agree with me, if you don't, if you think I'm being overly harsh, because I really don't want to be, because I appreciate anyone who creates an inclusive deck of women writers and is positive about witchcraft and all of that. I really appreciate that. I just think there's one or two things that could be improved, and it feels weird because I'm normally so positive about things on my channel, but I thought for the sake of balance it's good to be honest. Anyway, that's that, and I might try and use them a bit more and then update maybe on Instagram. So don't forget to like the video if you've made it this far, and subscribe for more. Follow me on Instagram at rgwoodwitch if you want to see an update on this and see just other random crap from my life that I do. I don't know. I don't know what I put on there anymore. It's just no, it's not. It's great. It's a good time. So go over there and stay over here. I don't know. Watch some more videos. Do what you want. Okay, so have a lovely day, and I will see you again very soon.